Welcome to Measurably Better Learning, the podcast built for learning and development professionals. Whether you're an instructional designer, L&D professional, or corporate leader, get ready for insights and ideas that will transform your approach to learning, training, and development. So let's dive in. Welcome to this episode of the Measurably Better Learning podcast. And my conversation partner today, as pretty much always. is Miriam Taylor. So Miriam, thank you for your time and your willingness to share your thoughts and your expertise. I always enjoy these conversations and I have much to learn from you. The topic for today is an interesting one, the evolving role of learning professionals. Mm-hmm. And every role, everywhere, and every job evolves. It's natural. We get better. We have different processes. We think about things differently. Somebody comes up with a different framework or paradigm or whatever. But I think we mean something beyond that. What is happening in the L&D world that you think is different from 5 years ago, 10 years ago?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we can kind of take the topic a couple different ways, but before we really even talk about the L&D professional, we have to know what's changing in their world, so to speak, like you said, So, boy, at the risk of everyone laughing, I'm going to say digital learning is a big change, and that sounds like ridiculous, of course.
Is it 1995?
Exactly.
Miriam? Yeah, okay. Yeah.
But I really do want to start there because I mean it with a little bit of a nuance. I mean, when I first started my career, it was largely because the internet had become a thing.
Right.
And we were doing some sorts of online learning. Mm-hmm. So when I say digital learning, what I mean is that has become the primary strategy for most organizations. Mm-hmm. So even pre-COVID, we worked with a lot of companies where, kind of kicking and dragging their feet, they would do a few things online, but their primary method, and of course it depends on your industry, but their primary method was still in person or shadowing or hands-on and then out of COVID, we see emergency learning, which some of it was just terrible, but what can you do?
Right.
It's what you had to do. But what I'm seeing is this shift pretty much across the board. It's the strategy of the company. The primary strategy is that we are going to deliver learning and development, learning experiences almost entirely online, or they're going to be blended. But that's the focus and the strategy now.
And it's interesting when you talk about that because you and I have been in this industry a long time. It used to be that our clients would ask us for instructor-led training. And by the way, could you make some digital version of that for people in remote locations or whatever? Completely flipped around.
Right.
Probably 90% of what we do is digital learning. And every now and then somebody says, hey, can you create a VILT or an ILT version? So yeah, it's changed. It's changed significantly.
Yeah, And we still do, of course, do ILT, but even with that, the interesting thing is that most of the requests we get are always to have a digital version of that in some way, shape, or form. So it's not...
I'm trying to think of the last one we did that would have been just ILT.
Right. I mean, we don't even if you say you're going to have, this is really kind of old school, like a workbook or something like that, it's all digital. I mean, everyone's filling it in online. So yeah. And I mean, like I said, at the risk of sounding sort of, I don't know, like 1995-ish. Right. It's something that I don't know that we always recognize. It's just been kind of creeping up on us. And then,
the frog in the kettle thing, you're not really paying attention to the fact that the industry has significantly changed.
Right.
And especially post-COVID.
Right.
No, there are no early adopters anymore. We're way beyond
absolutely
the new technology and new paradigm adaptation schemes.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, a lot of it's driven by the learner. And so some of the changes we're seeing now, or some of the other, is this move towards more personalized learning because the learner is demanding it. But we also have the tech to do it. We have the ability, and we'll talk, I'm going to get to AI, I promise.
Okay.
But those are some other big changes, this push from the learner to, I'm not going to just take I want a test out option. Why can't I prove what I already know? Right. Why can't I have, lots of learning management systems similar to Amazon, right? We're going to recommend this for you, or depending on, it's going to design a custom learning journey. We get requests from clients all the time for that.
That's coming fast.
It is.
And is here.
It is.
In some way. So that's how the industry's shifting. What about the L&D professionals in that industry? What do they need to be thinking about?
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about, I think one of the big things they need to think about is AI, right?
Yeah.
So whether it's to make your job personally easier, and when I say easier, again, we talk a lot about you're still the expert. We're not just curating content as instructional designers. We are designing a learning path or a learning journey, but the ability to take content and synthesize it to what the most important points are that we can then work from there, or we can use AI to help us design different tracks of the learning, like let it do that thinking for us. There's a lot, and we can, I think in our second half, we can talk more specifically about things that we can do, but you can't ignore AI, and nor should you.
Well, you can, but it's going to roll right over you. It'll be over fast.
Yeah, similar to my comment before. I mean, the bus isn't.
No.
You will be.
Sure, that horse is not going back in the stable.
I know. Okay.
No, ma'am.
We're really mixing our metaphors.
We are. You are. But I really like horses. So, okay. Well, we'll come back in the second half, and we'll talk a bit about AI and perhaps some other tools.
Imagine a world where every training session, every learning module, and every translated document is aligned with your company's unique goals and global ambitions. Welcome to Ingenuity, where we don't just talk about elevating your corporate learning, we make it happen. At Ingenuity, we understand the heart of your business is its people. That's why we specialize in creating custom learning solutions and translation services that are not just effective, but are designed specifically for your business's global needs. Let us show you how learning cannot be just better, but measurably better, with solutions tailored just for you. Learn more in the description below.
Welcome back, everybody. So now Miriam is going to give the final determination on the benefit of AI, and then it'll be the final word. Nothing else will need to be said. You and I have been talking, even in the last few days, about how to think about AI, and is it a threat? Is it the greatest thing coming? And we had a conversation recently about thinking about AI as a division of labor beyond tools, because it's not just a tool in your hand; it's a tool that can operate on its own independently of you.
Which is
And so it's AI is actually way more than a tool. It's another version of you, and you can assign certain things to AI that you did before, but they're not necessarily the higher order thinking. And so that it's not a new tool in the toolbox. And I thought about it like that for a long time.
I did too, yeah.
And I don't think that's right. I think thinking of it as an extension of yourself, because you're really telling it how to think. And you're really directing it what to go find for you and what to process and what to output. So it's a derivative of your cognitive processes in some ways, which, yikes, okay, there's some scary stuff there. But how do you think of AI, and back to the theme of this podcast, how is AI going to change, and is changing, our industry and how we function in it?
Yeah, I mean, I think for a while here, and there's some legitimacy in thinking about AI as, especially when it first started, as a tool that I could use. And we often give as a rule of thumb, it can get me like 60% of the way there, something like that. And there is some, as a learning professional, there's some value in that. But you and I have been talking philosophically about more of this division of labor. And so here's what I mean by that. I can now sort of, if in the scope of a project, right? One of the things instructional designers have to do is work with a team to write objectives so that things are scoped well. Well, that's really nobody's favorite job. And it's a lot of wordsmithing and a lot of other things. But if I can assign AI to take my source content and write my objectives for me, now I'm already moving on to what do my deliverables look like? What is the learning journey?
You're still coming back to the objectives.
I'm still coming back to them,
Right.
and I'm still making sure they're correct
Right.
because I am the learning expert.
Right.
But I just assigned that whole division of labor to AI to create. So now I'm free. And again, those are more lower level.
Yeah.
If you think of Bloom's taxonomy,
Yeah.
skills that have to be done.
Data analysis too, I think.
Yeah, oh,
When you're
definitely.
trying to analyze data and you're thinking, boy, I wish I'd paid more attention into my stats class. Right? You can shift that entire amount of work over to AI, and AI is going to probably give you a better answer than what you would have come up with on your own.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole space for example, we often will feed source material and
Yeah.
say, well, I can say, give me 4 different outlines of this material. And I can start to think through now what would, maybe they're best for different learners, but maybe it's just me thinking about it in a way I never would have thought about it before and coming up with a different way to organize my materials, and I can go from there. There's a lot of different ways that we talk about, again, the evolving role of a learning professional. This is learning how to master AI is a big thing. And I don't know that we've mastered it, but it's certainly one of the things I kind of flagged as a growth mindset, right? Not being stuck in this is sort of the way we've always done it as instructional designers. Well, AI is probably the biggest challenge to that, not being threatened, but learning how to use it really to make, not just make my job easier, to create a better learning experience, because it is a division of labor.
Yeah.
So I have choices and options and different ways to look at things instead of just what's coming out of my brain.
And there is a threat.
Yeah.
The threat is if you don't do anything about it.
Yes, that makes sense. Yeah.
If you've decided to not do anything and you're not going to upskill, you're not going to learn, you're not going to join a group of people that are doing the same thing as you through AI, you are kind of self-selecting at that point. So there is a threat, but it's not an existential threat to every single person
Right.
in the L&D world. But it is a threat to people who are not going to evolve along with the evolving.
Some of my tips for instructional designers to help their role, make sure they're helping their organization evolve are bigger than that. Stay on top of industry trends. Well, that's a lot. But AI can help you do that. Same thing with the growth mindset, right? Learning how to master that. Collaborating with other departments across your company is going to help you stay in touch with what's happening in the company. All of those are things that, and I think we have an article coming out about this that will outline more of these, but I think AI is a great example to sort of hold up against those things, because that's what we have to be doing, is learning how to use those tools.
Just as a final thing, let me ask you, how do you stay up with industry trends? I know what I read. How do you do that? What's your methodology for being able to peek around the corner a little bit for what's coming?
Sometimes poorly.
Okay, fair enough.
No, I would say that there's so much information that I have found a couple places that will curate it and
Right.
digest it. So I get like a Friday email. I
Yep.
never read it on Friday, but some suggestions I gave. Sometimes it's okay. I'll have where I can do like an hour a week. I've shoved a bunch of articles in a folder or flagged a bunch of stuff. I can read it. Sometimes that's
Is that where you put the articles that I send to you, or do they just go automatically into the trash?
the circular file, Jerry. No.
Very hurtful.
For some people that won't work, but maybe like once a month you could set aside a half a day, or once a quarter.
Yeah.
It gets tricky. That's the hardest part about it, but you can't avoid it. So I would say look at respected sources and let them do the work for you. Again, AI is a great example of that.
Right.
Let it do the work for you and bring you a curated list. And I'd say in a lot of those digests or newsletters I get, I don't read 90% of the articles.
Right.
But there's always a nugget in there that
Right.
helps me
Or
stay
you
away.
might read one really deeply.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Very practical tips. And to all of our listeners, thank you for joining us today. Miriam, appreciate your willingness to participate in this. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Before we wrap up the show, if you're looking to dive deeper, we've got tons of free downloads, L&D resources, and details about upcoming webinars that you won't want to miss. They're found in the episode description. Plus, if you ever want to chat with either one of us, now's your chance. You can find links in the episode description to connect directly with Miriam or me. We're here to answer your questions and to discuss all things learning and development. And speaking of questions, we love hearing from you. Whether it's a question or a comment or a topic you're curious about, or if you just want to join the conversation, Drop us a comment on your favorite social media channel. Your input shapes our shows. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform. It's the best way to ensure you never miss out on our latest episode. We're excited to continue to transform learning into a measurable success with you. Until next time.